to make recommendations on prudent financial management of the resources that have been shared out to the counties. Under Article 2163B, which touches on today's theme, the Commission makes recommendations on how to enhance, define and enhance revenue, both at the national and the county level. Thank you, Session Chair.
Thank you very much. So we'll go straight. You see three broad themes or topics coming out of this discussion. We'll focus a bit on the budget allocation process. Then next, we are going to tackle how innovative we can be in terms of raising our own source revenue. And then lastly, we touch on how do we assess or the measurable impact of all the programs that we're talking about. And so we'll start with you, Honorable Nyoro. As the chair of the budget making process, just help us relate the national budget and county allocation while highlighting some of the macroeconomic circumstances.
Thank you very much, Boniface, even for this that we are currently implementing, and especially even the fiscal framework of it, so that it forms the basis of the figures and the resources we'll be discussing here today. The budget that we read and that is already now enacted is 3.744 trillion shillings. And the reason I'm giving all these highlights is because they'll play an integral role in the discussion we'll be having in terms of additional resources to our counties and also in terms of additional resources to our country, where majority, which is actually over 89% of the county resources, actually come from. And therefore, the basis of giving this brief and background is based on the fact that we have to bake a bigger cake because most of our counties draw most of their resources from the national government. And as I give this brief, the same points may apply to county governments because they are also governments with structures as robust as the national, in what we call ordinary revenue. We also anticipate to have around 347 billion in what we call appropriations in aid, which is A&A. We also project to have around 42 billion in terms of grants. If you add the math, then there is a whole of 720 billion, which is now what we call the budget deficit. It is also some form of financing of the budget. However, this figure may not, is a small figure comparatively, because last year we were dealing with a deficit of around 860 billion, and there were other expenditures at the 223 to a tune of 300 billion. And therefore, the actual deficit we were actually dealing with in the last financial year was much more because it was around 1.1 trillion. Now, that is where we are drawing our resources. And the reason I've highlighted is because the first item I gave, which is the ordinary revenue, is actually that or are recurrent in nature, is expenditure that is recurrent. We have around 807 billion, which is development kitty or development budget of the entire national government. From there, we have 986 billion, which is consolidated fund services, which is repayment of debts, and also the allocations that we give to our commissions and also pensions. And then lastly, we have now what we are discussing here today, which is the county monies or resources, which the equitable share is around 385 billion Kenya shillings. Now, the reason I've tabulated both is because each of those figures and lines have ramifications for governance and how our counties are run. The reason why the government affords the amount of money, for example, we are affording to channel to our county governments, is also based on the other budget lines that have to actually precede even the monies that we give to our counties. If you look at the side of the expenditure, how Treasury works and how also we work in the budget committee, This kitty I gave of 986 billion, called the Consolidated Fund Services, actually forms the first charge. When the Treasury collects money, the first batch of money they must release is the monies which are obligatory in nature, and that which forms the first obligation, the repayment of debts. How is debt related? Out of the 3.7 trillion, the first, in terms of the size that we are actually expending as a country, which is now beyond the salaries of the civil servants, is actually CFS, majority of which is payments for interest of our debts, which are the sovereign debts. So we may be discussing later about how to make the slice of the cake that goes to our account is bigger, but it must be in the context of all the things that we are doing as a government and also as a committee, so that our counties can get more money. If we free up more money, if, for example, we are not paying CFS of close to 1 trillion, then that frees up a lot of resources, out of which some may be retained in the national government, but of course a share of it will also go to our counties. As I come to the close, I will highlight the circumstances of the macro environment. The macro environment at which we are now operating on, I have to say, is much better than last year. Last year, I remember when we were starting the budget making process, we were discussing it at a circumstance where we had a ravaging famine, and therefore the first priority was actually more interventionist than policy. We had to intervene for the people of Kenya to remain alive first, even before we talked about the policies of making our country better. But there are also some glaring issues that we are facing as a country, and all these I've said before have the ramifications to the money that we are discussing. Number one is there has been a global inflation, and I want to highlight, number one, the inflation that has been there in the US, basically as a result of what we would call COVID checks, which was an intervention of the US government. So every time the Federal Reserve have been raising interest rates, we have been seeing ramifications across our currency, across our debt, and across everything else that is attached to it. We have also been seeing a lot of capital flight, because when the US interest rate goes up, then the US becomes a very attractive area for investments, and especially for people who will be looking for fixed income kind of facilities, and therefore we get capital flights from the markets in the emerging countries like Kenya, and that has got a lot of effect to everything else, including inflation, including our currency. Lastly, I am happy that now inflation is coming much lower, because I saw the last figures from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, where in the previous month, the food inflation part was around 8.6%, which is a climb down, because you've been talking about even in excess of 15% in the last few months. And when food inflation comes down, then generally the cost of life goes down, and I'm sure even the political noise comes down, and this gives a good environment for people to work, and especially implement policies that are long-term in nature. Sorry for the jargons, but I'm sure we'll ease up as we proceed.
Really appreciated, Honorable Dendi. That was a fantastic breakdown. I think we've been schooled a little bit on the breakdown, especially budgeting process, and I like the fact that you've touched on the macroeconomic circumstances. Just following up on that, because we are now at the budget and allocation to counties. We've come from 3.74 billion up to where we've allocated counties 385 billion. With devolution, service delivery is largely now a task, or is primarily undertaken by counties. And Your Excellency, Governor of Kakamega, just help us paint the picture of how this disparity in the budget allocation is affecting service delivery.
Thank you very much, Session Chair. When you look at the budget allocation between the national government and the counties, we actually have disparities which grossly affects service delivery. And this is in line with the fact that most of those functions which were devolved under the fourth schedule of the Constitution were not costed properly. We have one of the principles of fiscal responsibility, which requires resources to follow functions. So if we have functions that have been devolved and not properly costed, then it becomes a problem, or rather pressure on the counties to adequately finance those specific functions which were devolved. So the effect of the disparity, because of the low allocation to counties, number one, we are going to see a reduced access to basic services. For example, the allocation that you are given in this financial year is only an increase of 15 billion Kenya shillings. When you take 15 billion Kenya shillings, divide into 47 counties, you'll clearly do the maths and see that that increase may not be adequate. Yes, we understand that the cake is not big enough, but I think the service delivery at the county, especially on matters to do with healthcare, education, may be affected because the amount that you have received, which was not properly costed at the time of disbursement or other devolvement, affects service delivery. When you go to education sector, there's so many expectations of the counties to deliver ECD programs, and ECD was devolved, but we didn't have attendant resources. On the issues of roads infrastructure, for example, we have so much that is expected from the counties, especially on the infrastructure, but because the cake is limited, so it is going to affect the growth of our projections in terms of infrastructure, in terms of growth of our service delivery. And that is why, going forward, you'll find that we're asking the Commission on Revenue Allocation to look at the effects of the disparity so that at the next disbursement, they make recommendations to the National Treasury. Again, because of the reduced disbursement and allocation to counties, you will find there is also pressure on the counties to maximize on revenue allocation or other revenue generation. Of course, that becomes an opportunity for the counties to do what we call diversification of revenues, but ideally it's because of the disparity. I appreciate what the Chair of Budget has pointed out, but what we are saying is let the functions which have been devolved to have the resources. We'll want to see an implementation of what the President said yesterday, that in the next 60 days, all those devolved functions which are still being undertaken by the national government are going to be devolved. And then resources, attendant resources, to follow those functions. Lastly, Chair, we are looking at overdependence on conditional grants because of the disparity and also because of the challenge of inadequate resourcing of counties. These conditional grants, of course, largely come with conditionality, especially from the development partners, which may not necessarily be compatible with our local needs. So what we are saying is we are looking forward to a balanced and equitable allocation of resources so that service delivery is properly achieved. Of course, taking cognizance of the fact that we have resource constraints, we are very much alive to that fact, and largely, once we comply with the fiscal responsibility principle of resources following functions, then we can clearly see an improved service delivery to counties. Thank you.
Very much, Your Excellency. Very well captured on the key challenges. And I noticed that you focus largely on the vertical allocation. Allow me to go to the Honorable CS. Professor, we've heard from David Nyoro, and the Governor, and the real issue here is disparity. Kindly help us reflect on why this disparity exists. Professor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And because this question was sent to be earlier, I'll make sure that I have a comprehensive answer. Because I don't have one answer, I have a series of should I say, factors that we put together. But before I do that, let me appreciate the 10 years of devolution and even the theme that has been chosen, that we can drive transformation from the local county governments as centers of economic development. And it resonates quite well with the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. One of the things I've told people so many times is that it's an agenda with two distinct statements. One of them is bottom-up. And you have to ask yourself why majority of Kenyans have been left behind. And we have to ask ourselves whether it's a resource constraint or it's an institutional constraint, an institutional failure problem that drives policy failure. And the second one is economic transformation. And one of the most important things is actually to ask ourselves what ignites economic transformation. And that is one of the reasons why devolution was very, very important. So essentially, we are coming to the point where we not only give ourselves a scorecard in terms of economic transformation, but also how we try to eradicate poverty. So since I was tasked this question, let me try to provide some answers. One of them is that, let me start by saying that the objective of the revenue, in the division of revenue between the two levels of government is equitable sharing of the same to ensure that each level is able to perform the function assigned to it by the Constitution. I think Mheshimiwa Dede Nyoro has actually voiced that and tried to redefine that across institutions and across levels. And also to underscore what I think Governor has just said, that actually budgets are designed to follow functions. And we have to make sure that we remember that at all times. So there are three components of the revenue that is raised nationally and is allocated to counties. And the first component is the county equitable share. And this is at least 15% of revenues raised nationally based on the audited accounts. And second, we have county government's additional allocation that comprises of conditional allocation to county governments from national government, share of revenue, and also from and the proceeds from loans and grants from development partners. And the third component is the equalization fund that benefits areas that are categorized as marginalized. So you can see that the three factions are diverse and they take care of diverse factors. Let me turn to the Kenya shillings 442 billion comprising of that two components, 1 and 2, which I think is the one that we have talked about. And first of all, let me say that Article 203 of the Constitution gives criteria used in analyzing financial and economic data in the allocation of revenues between the two levels of government. And the National Treasury and the Commission of Revenue Allocation, which is represented in this panel, should thus compute the budget figures based on available structure and the division of revenue. So in a sense, we should come to the same figures because we are analyzing the same thing. The basis of the allocation between the two levels of government are various, but let me mention a few. First, national interest and public goods provision is very, very critical here. Second, of course, the public debt, which comprise of annual debt redemption, costs, and also the interest payments for both domestic and external debts. And I think this was covered very well by Mheshimiwa Dede because he said it forms the first charge. It forms the first charge because we cannot default on public debt. Public debt is sovereign debt. Third, other national obligations. For example, they include mandatory pensions payments, financing of constitutional offices, as well as expenses relating to other statutory bodies. Fourth, county governments' ability to perform the functions assigned to them and to meet the development needs is very, very important and forms the baseline for the equitable share of revenue, and which is informed by costing expenditures for devolved functions. It's very, very critical to understand that it's only the devolved functions that are costed here. Fifth, let me also add another point on fiscal capacity and efficiency of county governments to raise their own source revenues, which is very, very important. But unfortunately, it hasn't happened very well the last 10 years, something that we really need to step up and see how we can deal with. Sixth is the whole issue of economic disparities within and among countries and the need to remedy those disparities. And for me, that is very, very important. Let me list the seventh point is the need for economic optimization for each country. And here, I want to point out that countries are able to prioritize projects and consequently allocate resources, thus optimizing their potential for economic development. Again, if we want to go back to the scorecard, we may want to ask ourselves, this is an important function, but it's also a factor that determines the allocation of revenue. But 8 is stable and predictable allocation of county governments' vertical share of revenue. And for us, this is very important because the equitable share allocation are protected from cuts that may be occasioned by shortfalls in revenues. So they are actually protected. And finally, there is need for flexibility in responding to emergencies and other temporary needs, especially factoring these contingencies is very, very important. And of course, that's what also Mheshimiwa Dede mentioned, that when we were faced with one of the toughest or perhaps severe droughts in the last 40 years, we had to actually reallocate revenues to try and support and save Kenyans from those vagaries. And that is why it becomes very important. Those 9 factors are the ones that actually drive the allocation. And of course, at the end of the day, it was set as a percentage. So in a sense, we can grow the base. And the responsibility of growing the base is not only national government. The whole objective of devolution was actually to help us grow the base. So in a sense, what we should be doing perhaps in a different session is to ask ourselves, how do we grow the base? Are we optimizing that? As I have always told people, I have to be shifted into development economics. I was never a development economist, but it's because I feel that the failure that I see around us is actually failing to take advantage of the situations around us. And we want to discuss those failures. Sometimes I call it institutional failure problem for lack of better words. But you do know that it is failure to take responsibilities and even to take advantage of the opportunities around us. And that is something that we can debate while we are having this scorecard on devolution. Let me stop there because I know I have another question and I want to go back to it so that I'll have some, of course, clarity. But it's very, very important to have those clarities on those factors. It's also very important because numbers, we can argue about numbers, but let's make sure that once we argue about numbers, we also understand the factors that drive those numbers. And that is something that we can actually agree on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable CS. And the second last point is really something we'll be touching on in a few minutes. I'll go back to Your Excellency Governor of Embu, Cicely. Just help us understand the horizontal bit of allocation so that then we get some additional input from the chair of the CRA on how or what are some of the factors we look at when you're allocating or when you're looking at the horizontal allocation of revenue.
Thank you very much. Let me begin by saying that Of course, there are those factors that the CRA looks at when they are giving the allocations at the county level, the horizontal base of allocation. And from where I sit, there are important factors: poverty levels, geographic coverage, marginalization, population, among many other factors. But I am of the opinion that going forward, CRA needs to put more weight also on population, because services are rendered also to individuals, to persons. So that if you're looking at the number of students going to ECDE, the number of patients to hospitals, the number of services you need to render to certain people, then that means population becomes a factor. And this is my personal opinion, that going forward, it's also important to give population some weight in terms of revenue allocation. But also, let me say that, of course, the resource basket of county governments is never enough. The serious deficit, as you've seen, the amount of money coming from the national government to counties is hardly enough to be able to meet the many functions that each county must be able to provide. And therefore, the need to grow the base, as Professor Ndongo has said, and the need to be able to look for alternative sources of revenue. And in the case, in the last 1 year, the experiences I see from Embu and other counties is that every county is trying very hard to make sure that they get more resources from alternative sources. Among them, developing their own source revenue, diversifying the revenue streams at the county level so that we can be able to get more money. Every county, upon election, is told that you have so much potential to raise local revenue, but there are not many counties that have been able to get even to 70% of that potential. And so what counties are doing is, one, ensuring that they identify the revenue streams and diversifying the same, so that you're not just looking at the traditional revenue streams as we knew them. A lot of them are coming up with new ways, and you find that the development agenda of most counties is such that whatever it is they are developing, they are able to get revenue out of it, whether it's developing more markets, whether it's building more hospitals, whether it's, liquor licenses, single business permits, agriculture sector, leasing of public assets, whether it's agricultural machinery or stalls, market stalls. Many counties are coming up with many unique ways of raising revenue at the county level. But more importantly is the new thing that seems to work in some counties, and many counties I know are moving towards that. That is the development of legislation to allow for facility improvement funds, especially in level 4 and level 5 hospitals, so that whatever revenue that is developed, grown and developed, collected at those facilities can be able to be plowed back into those facilities and improve on them. And that gives the hospitals the morale to want to raise more revenue so that they can be able to have more money for themselves. And a good example that I've heard of is that Nakuru is doing very well with the facility improvement fund, especially in their level 5 hospitals. I know many counties have gone there, visited there for benchmarking, and I think that's one way for counties to even improve on in the health sector. The other source of revenue is that there's a lot of resource mobilization that is going on at the Council of Governors level and also at individual county level. And we have many national and international partners that are willing to support counties in different ways. We have a lot of support coming from development partners in terms of making sure they improve the services of counties. We have a lot of money coming also from private sector, the corporate world, Safaricom Foundation, M-Pesa Foundation, KCB Foundation, Cooperative Bank. I mean, many corporate institutions are now seeing the need to partner with counties in order to give them better development. And I think that's a low-hanging fruit for many counties, and we've seen that work. We have development partners at the level of World Bank and other development institutions that are also putting a lot of money into counties, and that needs to be enhanced so that we can be able to maximize on it. And on the issue of own source revenue, I think the bottom line is for counties to be able to digitize revenue collection so that you are able to ensure that there's less cash collections and we go pure cashless, and you are able to monitor real time how much money is coming into counties by way of own source revenue. Then there's of course PPP, which has been more at the national level, and I think that Professor Ndongo might want to help counties to see how we can take advantage of PPP and how we can be allowed to do our own PPPs independent of the national government, and maybe look at the current laws around it and regulations and see how counties can fit into that system and understand it better and build the capacities of counties to be able to engage into public-private partnerships. And that obviously goes hand in hand with the issue of county boards. There's a good example like Kipia County, I think in the year 2021, 2022, they were able to raise some county boards. I think it came to of about 1 billion. I don't know to what extent that was taken up by the new regime under Governor Irongo, but that's also a thing that the Treasury could help counties to grow, and that goes hand in hand with the issue of green boards that many counties are not very familiar with. And maybe if we start looking at those non-traditional sources of revenue, we'll be able to do better in terms of revenue collection and making sure we meet the gaps, the revenue gaps that we have in our budgets. Then, of course, the whole issue of agribusiness and value addition. Many counties agree that currently we are all, selling products in their raw form, and hence the need for us to improve in terms of value addition. And I'm happy with the current joint program between the national government and the county governments for the county aggregation and the industrial parks. I believe by having those industrial parks, we'll be able to have value addition for our produce, and then we can look for markets, which is very, very critical, and enhance the amount of revenue coming into counties. And that way, counties can get more money to do development through the KIPES. And I think that is one of the programs that has really been embraced in a big way by the county governments, and I think the president did mention it yesterday in his speech. Then, of course, enhanced local tourism. We have very many counties with excellent tourism sites and tourism products, which, if developed, can be able to bring more revenue into counties. And this will need that counties work very closely with the Ministry of Tourism and the Kenya Tourism Board, so that we can be able to develop better tourism products, better tourism circuits that can be enhanced, so that tourists, when they come into the country, they can be able to go to the non-traditional tourism counties, because very many counties have unexplored tourism opportunities that can enhance revenue for the counties and also for the national government. And we look forward to working very closely with the Ministry of Tourism towards developing county-specific tourism products that can excite both local and international tourists. Then, of course, many counties are coming up with county-specific taxes in the areas of game reserves, in the areas of livestock, agricultural products, and I believe that going forward, we can be able also to see how we can harmonize those taxes across counties, because you find sometimes one county charges more than another, and so there's need certainly to harmonize those taxes across the various counties, so that we are also not overtaxing our citizenry. Then some counties are coming up with county investment fund, and this is something that needs to be explored further. Others are really supporting small and medium-sized enterprises, and I think the partnership between counties and the Ministry of MSMEs is very, very important at this point, so that we can be able to reach out to more small-scale enterprises and improve on them and enhance revenue collection at that point. So I wish to end there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Our Excellency has actually touched on the second theme, which is what you're ushering, the innovations and how we can grow our own source revenue. But Chairperson CRA, there's one point that I don't want us to miss from Her Excellency comments, and that is she looks at some of the other factors we can look at when you're talking about horizontal allocation. I would like you to respond to that, just a brief reaction to that. How do we factor that? And then while you have the mic, Chair, also help us understand, from your own report, there is a considerable disparity between the potential of counties' own source revenue and what has been collected, while appreciating that there has been growth and we are seeing a lot of effort on digitization. Just help us understand some of the challenges and potential solutions to that.
Thank you, Session Chair. Governor Cecil has elaborated quite in detail the issues of how the OSR or the own source revenue could be improved. But let me talk about the factors that you have asked, what factors we put into consideration when we are sharing the horizontal revenue. Now, the CS did mention that we have a base, and the base that is used is the revenues that are collected nationally, the national revenue. And that is the base that we use for the horizontal sharing. Yes, Governor has talked of population. Population on its own is 18% as one of the factors. We also have the poverty, an index of poverty, which stands at 14%. Health, which is the second highest at 17%. And urban services, 5%. Agriculture, 10%. The land at 8%. And the basic share, which is given to all the counties equally at 20%. Now, and of course roads is at 8%. When you look at these indexes of factors, population at 18, but poverty is also population-based. Health is population-based. In fact, the only factor here that is not population-based is the land and the basic share. So the rest are population-based. So if you take the land, which is 8%, and the basic share 28%, then by extension, the sharing of based on population is actually, it would be 72%. So that, I believe, addresses the question that you asked. Yes, counties have been trying to grow their own source revenue. Indeed, there's been growth. And in fact, if you look at it from when devolution started, 2013, 2014 to 2021, 2022 financial year, you find that there's been an up and down. But in the year 2018, 2019, the county's revenue collection globally was at 40.3 billion. Now, 40.3 billion may sound a good figure, but looking at the 40.3 billion against their own targets of that year, which was the best, you find the target that year was 53.9 billion. So on a percentage base, they reached 74.7. However, if you look at a study that was done by the CRA in collaboration with others, we came up with what we call the potential that the counties can raise. And the potential is at 216 billion. So a lot of scientific and research and different ways of assessing that figure was put in. So you find we are still way below. In fact, that would be a figure of about 18% in terms of performance of counties against their potential. And that potential then would factor what Governor Cecil is saying. Are we doing any value addition? What are we doing to improve the revenue of the counties? And I think that's where the CS was also alluding to. Are we at our optimal? How can we get both levels to work towards increasing this revenue? And maybe at this point, let me try to demystify the myth that the more the counties get, then the less of the equitable share they get. No. The equitable share is provided for in the law. However, if you collect more, then you're better off because you can now expand on your developments and whatever other projects you may want to develop. You asked me about the challenges. One of the challenges with the on-source revenue, that is the revenue that the counties collect, is the weak revenue legislation and the late enactment of the laws. The counties are still relying on the old laws that they inherited from the local authorities to collect revenue. And they do collect revenue, but they expose themselves to the risk of litigation because they are not, if a Kenyan doesn't want to pay that revenue, then they have a right to go to court. So that contributes heavily. Another one is that limited forecasting. Now, counties do their forecasts, and because they have their budgets and they would wish to enhance their budgets, you find they use their own source revenue as a balancing figure in the sense that they anticipate to collect that money to finance their budget, then they don't collect that money. Now, when they don't collect that money, for example, if you have a budget of $1 million and your own source revenue is 300, and you execute your budget to the entire 1 million, but you only collect 200 million, then clearly you have a deficit of 100 million. So what happens? This is what actually leads us to pending bills. This is a huge challenge because unless you collect the entire 300, then you are not able to execute your entire budget. So why do counties have this? Why do they have wrong estimates? It could be sometimes deliberate with the hope of having a bigger budget, or it could be that they are not able to forecast correctly and accurately. And that is where the Commission on Revenue Allocation comes in. We have come up with tools, guidelines, capacity building to ensure that the counties are able to forecast their revenues in an accurate way. Now, I may not go too much into the others, but I would wish to at least talk about the database, especially the property rates. Property rates is a low-hanging fruit. Also, the business licenses, some of these revenue streams are low-hanging fruits. If you look at property rates, this is a revenue that you can actually estimate at the beginning of the year and know how much you're going to collect to the shilling. Why? If you have a rate payers data, you know who your payers are, you know how much they're supposed to pay for the land, you should be able to estimate how much you're going to collect. But there's a challenge, and I think the CEO, group CEO of KCB, you did allude to it yesterday that there's no title to properties. And that not only affects accessing loans, it also affects the fact that you can now not charge a rate because you do not know the properties that you have out there. So it is very important that we assist the counties, and it's something we are looking forward to have it in our strategic plan, that we must support the counties to update their valuation rules. We must support the counties to identify what properties they have. But again, this is not only a county function, because some of the properties that are in the counties actually are titled by the national government. So we shall need support of the national government also. Now, most importantly, the biggest challenge, again, is these fragmented revenue management systems. The counties had to collect revenue. So some have done a great job. They've gone ahead and automated their services. However, some are at the mercy of the vendors. Some have automated and the systems are not reliable. The management system is expensive. So they're spending quite high percentages, 5-10%, just managing the revenue collection. This is money that could have been plowed back to assist the counties in collection. So what does CRA recommend? Because the function of CRA is more of recommending. Even the horizontal, the vertical, we recommend. So what happens after that is a function elsewhere. So we are recommending that we have an integrated county revenue management system. In fact, we are requesting the counties to agree with us that though they have their own other systems, when we do have, because the National Treasury has set up a task force to look into how do we have this integrated county revenue management system. Once, because they are also mandated by law. I think the PFM law section 12E gives powers to the National Treasury to develop and design financial management systems. So if we do have an integrated county revenue management system, then the counties can, based on the assessment and the type of system they have, they could adopt or customize their system and onboard the integrated revenue management system. Because this is a system which will assist us in ensuring that we have standards, because by the time Treasury will come up with this system, we are looking at even Public Sector Accounting Standards Board coming on board to assist in ensuring we have standards. The revenue streams may not be the same, but that is the role of CRA to assist in coming up with revenue systems that can enhance the revenue. So what we are saying, if we have this system and the counties agree with it, number one, it's going to be cheaper. In fact, it may not have even a cost implication. Where it is hosted, those are details. But if the counties on board on a system where we are on the same platform, I believe that is going to ensure that we increase, the revenues go up. And we want to appreciate the counties that have taken the trouble to automate their services, because through manual processes, as the governor has alluded, we have lost a lot of revenue through that process. So I will recommend that that system should be in place, and that we should be able to all on board, the counties should on board on the system. There's still a lot to say, but maybe we shall discuss as we go along. Thank you, Session Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. That's really, you painted the picture, and I like the 3 points we've raised. One, legislation. Second, you've talked about forecasting, and you've talked of a couple of databases, and then you brought in the technology. I want us to close this topic, but some reflection from Your Excellencies, the Governor of Kakamega and the Governor of Embu, on these potential challenges, but from a solution perspective, what are some of the things we can do to address these challenges as highlighted by the CRA chair?
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to appreciate the proposal of having an integrated county revenue management system because it provides a platform which will enhance revenue collection, especially in those counties that don't have a digital platform per se. The only issue I wanted to raise, Chair, yesterday the President, of course, confirmed that counties have received the allocation for the month of July, which is very much welcome. We're now looking at a predictable and timely release of monies to counties. And that is something that, as governors, we are very much aligned to that. However, we still have some institutional challenges with the commission, or rather the control of budget. Most of my colleagues here will agree with me that, yes, the monies were released almost 3 weeks ago to the county revenue funds domiciled at the central bank. However, for the counties to get that money, you require a minimum of 2 weeks. So one of the recommendations, which may be a take-home from this conference, is we really need the control of budget to onboard the question of digital transformation. Let's have administrative and institutional reforms at the control of budget office so that when funds are disbursed to the county revenue fund, we need to have approvals automated as opposed to having our CECs and chief officers going to camp in Nairobi for the money to be released to counties. Otherwise, I want to agree with the recommendations from CRA, and for me, that's the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the governor has spoken my mind. Of great importance is really automating the entire requisition process of getting money from CRF at the control of budgets. The amount of time taken by our officers to go and push for the release of money is a lot of time, and it's also expensive because these officers must stay in Nairobi and pay for their accommodation while they are pushing for the money. And I think it should be automatic that once we've requisitioned, then the process of approval should be automated so that we don't have to follow for that money in Nairobi in person. The second thing, obviously, I'm extremely delighted by the proposal by the chair CRA on integrated revenue collection system across counties. And yes, this is a thing that is already is so much needed by the different counties. And you'll find even those that have already automated their system, it's true they're paying a lot of money. And in the cases of us first-time governors, we come and find that the system is not even watertight, it's not safe, and there's a lot of leakages within the system. So we'd be very happy, Madam Chair, and of course Professor Ndungu, to have that system onboarded as quickly as is possible so that we don't have to spend any money coming up with the county-specific systems. And I think with an integrated system, there will be greater transparency of the revenue collected so that, it's not at the whim of an individual or a particular company. I think that's a much welcome proposal and should be implemented as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. Really very clear actions here that we need to document on specific actions, and they really look very actionable. Thank you for bringing that out. Keith, I'll be coming to you shortly, but before then, I want to go back to Honorable CS, and I like the challenge you brought on broadening the base. It's reflecting across, again, from the feedback from the CRA chair, and the governors take the challenge very well. Specifically, the chair cited the Finance Management Act and Section 12. How can Treasury support devolution, or how can Treasury support devolved functions in performing their task, and especially some of the issues that have come up? What would be the role of Treasury, and how can that be executed?
Thank you very much. And indeed, those are very, very good suggestions that are coming up. But let me say that first, at the outset, the role of the National Treasury is actually not to supervise the counties, but actually, more importantly, is to help them or to support them perform the functions that they have been assigned to do by the Constitution. And for us, that is very, very important. And you can see, for example, His Excellency the Governor has mentioned that predictable revenue payments is actually very, very important. And we do recognize that. For example, let me give you an example. In the last just added fiscal year 2022-2023, the National Treasury prioritized the disbursements of all revenues owed to counties before the end of the financial year. In fact, this is the first time in the last 7 years or so for county governments to have all their revenues before the end of the fiscal year. And we even did that to our friends, the MPs, the CDF. And we also did that even to the elderly, the payments, the transfers to support the elderly. We did that. And we argued that it is better to do that because it's going to support our economic recovery process. But I would like maybe to even go back to that to say that, look, counties would like to see how they prioritize their own budgets in terms of placing own revenue, because this is where we are. But we would like also to understand what are the challenges of own source revenue that can be generated. I think, Your Excellency, Madam Cecilia, you mentioned about even tourist sites. For example, we couldn't even come here in Eldoret like yesterday because we could not even have space at the hotels. Even the flights were not a problem. Flights are not, they are exogenous to the county, but at least accommodation was very, very critical. But in an effort, to see how we can RFE budget deficits at county government level, the National Treasury has spearheaded the development of the national policy to support the enhancement of own source revenue. And the policy proposed is to actually enact a number of reforms. And some of them are currently being implemented, but some of them include even bills in Parliament. For example, the development of county government's revenue raising process bill 2023. We also have the National Rating Bill 2023, and this is going to unlock the revenue from property rates. And again, this is what you said, they are low-hanging fruits. And Madam, this is very important for us. These low-hanging fruits need to be picked, but they can be actually be affected once we have passed this bill. And another initiative is actually the policy for automation of revenue collection and management. And I do think that this is some function that we can help the National Treasury, and the National Treasury in collaboration with the CRA, the COG, and other relevant institutions are in the process of developing an integrated resource revenue management system. CRA, you mentioned that. But what we really want is to make sure that all counties use this. The first session that we had here was about digitization. And I can tell you that we have come a long way with digitalization, especially some people like us. But for me, I like it because it forms a very good base for even payment system. And payment system can be used across, even tax revenue payments, the tax revenue payment system has been used. I think this process is going to be very, very important. I'm told it's at advanced stage, and we do believe we are going to get there. We're going to get there because it will give us some strength in terms of how financial management system becomes a cornerstone of an efficient public finance management regime, because if we don't have this efficient use of resources, adhere to public financial management law, we are not going to get anywhere, because resources are always going to be questioned in terms of how they are being used. One of the key PFM reforms is that we want to make sure that we enhance accountability and transparency that is prescribed by use of both levels of government. And that is why the Integrated Financial Management System, IFMIS, has reformed the core of PFM systems so that the budget formulation and even execution becomes quite transparent. And I do believe that we can actually overcome some of these problems by just doing that. But having said that, I may come back to the three of the points that have become quite problematic, because I can point out that because they become a source of failure. Let me talk about the pending bills issue. Some of these have legacy issues, but they arise from liabilities of, that is, because they have legacy issues because they arise from the local authorities that were there before the devolution started. But counties have continued to accumulate pending bills. And we have to resolve this, because essentially some of these pending bills that can be verified are actually debts owed to suppliers and even so many of the MSMEs. We need to resolve that. The second one is pension payments. Last week we had 2 days with the relevant Senate committee brainstorming on what we need to do on pension payments. It is actually very sad that only 3 counties in the totality of 47 countries that have no arrears. And we were asking, because we asked the CECs for all the counties to join us, and we had a 3-day session, and we wanted to see what kind of magic and what solutions. And we came up with formidable solutions that we want to make sure that it is done. See, Mheshimiwa Dede said that sovereign debt or public debt is the first charge. By the way, the second charge is pension payments. So it means that the county governments are making a very serious or grave mistake for not remitting the pension dues, because people who retire will have problems. The third problem is the huge wage bill. By the way, if all our resources are going to the recurrent spending, then we have no resources for investments. And so it means that we'll continue to be at the same level or even go below the capacity is going to be constrained. I've always argued, and argued very strongly, even in times of crisis, governments should always allocate resources to the development budget because they raise capacity for future growth. But once you do not allocate budgets to development spending, then you limit your future capacity for growth. It's the same thing with the counties. That's why it becomes very, very important. Finally, the financial reporting. And of course, this is occasioned by ineffective internal controls, and this is improper use of prescribed financial management system. So if we observe some of these 4 constraints, we can actually move out of the kind of quagmire we are in at the county level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable CS. I'll be coming back to you, Honorable Ndingi. I'll right now to allow Mr. Keith, the Country Director of World Bank, to highlight the approach that World Bank takes when you're identifying the financing and the programs. But most important, how are you measuring impact and the right or the positive change that is desired today?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to begin by saying it is an honor to be up here, representing not just the World Bank, but the whole community of development partners here, many of whom are here today, and almost all of whom have invested in devolution. Kenya deserves great congratulations for devolution. This was a risky undertaking 10 years ago, but it has proved transformational. And we in the World Bank, along with others, are very proud that we invested in this early on, seeing the potential it had to redress many of the, not just the political, but the economic shortcomings that were going to pull the country back. In fact, we have made a big bet on devolution as an institution. And we've worked in every county with a growing portfolio over the last several years. Our total portfolio in Kenya now exceeds 1 trillion shillings, about $8 billion US. And fully 1/4 of that, 2 billion, goes directly to devolved functions. And another 3 billion benefits the counties through multi-sectoral programs that bring benefits to multiple counties at one time. We do this for a simple reason, because we know that we cannot achieve the broader goals that we've agreed with government for Kenya without working heavily at the county level. And those goals are very simple. Number one, to raise productivity and job creation, which are both too low to drive Kenya's next stage of development. Number two, to reduce inequality, which is currently too high to enable the next stage of development. And third, to boost resilience to climate shocks and natural disasters, which are both too high to protect Kenya's next stage of development. And I want to highlight one of these in particular, which is the growing impact that devolution has had on improving inequality. It has the potential to do even more, but we are seeing progress in inequality in Kenya thanks to this dispersion of opportunities, the creation of more nodes of growth, and other benefits that come with devolution. And this is crucial right now as Kenya becomes a middle-income country to avoid an inequality trap. There's always been a spatial dimension to inequality here, and that has always been unfair to those who've been marginalized and left behind. But at Kenya's current stage of development, it is now not just bad for those who are left behind, it will be bad for all of Kenya. So to put it more positively, improving this will be good not only for those who are lifted up, but for Kenya as a whole, because it will help propel its growth. Countries with high inequality experience a lot of interruptions in their growth, like speed bumps in the road. Countries with lower inequality are able to sustain that growth year after year, which is ultimately what helps to drive sustained poverty reduction, innovation, private sector investment, etc. So much of our focus here is focused on leveling the playing field in as many ways as we can across Kenya. We do this through a number of ways, and I just want to highlight some of the results, because the point I want to make here today is that devolution is a very good investment. It's a very profitable investment in development terms. So in productivity, for instance, we put a big emphasis on agriculture, and in particular on improving infrastructure, strengthening value chains, and supporting commercialization. 1.6 million farmers have seen their productivity increase. We've seen productivity jump by 20 to 30% in several products, and 5 million farmers now benefit from regular agro-weather and market advisories. We've also been able to connect pastoralists to markets and to de-risking tools that will help bring more private sector support and investment in these areas. In urban areas, we are helping the counties to harness the power of the urban transition, these agglomeration economies that can support alternate nodes of growth and drive more locally driven growth. 4 million people so far have benefited from upgraded infrastructure, including 250,000 who have improved sources of water. We've also emphasized the private sector. If we're looking for alternate sources of revenue, obviously encouraging PPPs and private investment can be an important enhancement. Our private sector arm, IFC, has worked in 9 counties to move on digital and government business services and related functions. Second, in the area of inequality, we made a big focus on the 10 north and northeastern counties that have been historically marginalized. $2 billion worth of investments there, including the flagship $750 million Horn of Africa Gateway project, which is now serving 3 million people along the Isiolo-Mandera Regional Road, with all the associated asset value capture that can happen when roads are available. This has also supported primary health care outreach in all counties, and very importantly, picking up some of the themes we heard, the greater use of data and statistics with small area poverty estimates so the counties can see who they're benefiting. We've also worked, as I mentioned before, in an important area of governance for service delivery. We made good progress working with the counties on strengthening the institutions and systems that are needed, basically the ones that will underpin effective service delivery. But a lot more work needs to be done in this area. Our KUSP project created incentives for counties to put in place the urban governance structures that are envisaged in Kenya's law, and this was to help facilitate delivering greater urban services and infrastructure. But in this next phase, we do need to see the efficiency and impact of spending improve further. And finally, resilience. It is the tragic fact that Kenya will now be subject to a rising number of shocks, both climate and natural disasters. Climate change alone will have an adverse impact on agriculture, on livestock, on fisheries, biodiversity. Climate is a top priority for the World Bank globally, and that goes equally true here in Kenya. We know that water is crucial to this. I was discussing with some of the northeast governors this morning who all emphasized water is foundational. It's dropped 50% in the last 30 years here, and so World Bank investments are increasing in this area and are diversifying now to help reduce water insecurity. We're also working through our FLOCA program in 45 counties to help them deliver locally led climate solutions through both institutional and investment grants. And we're also going to start working to protect critical watersheds in a new project that will break new ground. So we've seen great impacts from this wide range of investments that will serve all of Kenya and which we intend to continue supporting along with our partners in the next stage to come, which will be pivotal to Kenya's propulsion to its next stage of development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keith. So we're wrapping up now. I'll just go back to Honorable Nyoro. In a minute or two, what are the potential enhancements to our legislation we can do, whether is reacting to what the Honorable CS has talked about, challenging the broadening, or even increasing the threshold. And then we conclude with some reaction from the real person who is in the forefront, and that is one of our excellencies. On all the points we've discussed, what's your reaction as a governor being in the front line of service delivery?
Thank you very much again. Even before I talk about the laws that we need to enact, it is important that I give some background in terms of figures so that we actually see where we should be focusing on. Because from 2012 to 2013, up to last financial year, our counties had received from the national government around 3.3 trillion Kenya shillings. 2.9 trillion Kenya shillings of that was the equitable share. And around 370 billion or thereabout was the additional monies, especially conditional grants that we give to our counties. So once you aggregate that, Boniface, then once you check at the aggregate of our county's budget, own source revenue only accounts for 8 to 12%, depending on which year you are looking at. And therefore, I think more weight must be on the 89 or thereabout, other than on the others. However, there is still a lot of room for improvement on own source revenue. But I want to concentrate more on where there is more meat than the bone, which is the monies that the counties actually receive from the national government, because history is clear that over 90% has been coming from the national government. As we talk about that, we are talking about also revenue collection in terms of the national government. Why? You cannot talk about county governments in isolation of the mother and father, because all these counties draw from the national government. And in my assessment, what we make as a budget is an element of something. And I don't want to use a lot of jargons. It is an element, or the budget that we make is an element of the wealth of our country. In consequence, we call it GDP. And I'm just trying to answer you in terms of the broadening of the monies that we take to our counties as I wind up with the laws that we need to change. As we talk about GDP in Kenya now, and especially I'm talking to governors for them to also, as I talk about national government, to see where they can actually trickle down in terms of correction of revenue. GDP in Kenya, we count it or we aggregate it. Number one is primary. When you talk about primary GDP or primary wealth or primary production, most of it is in agriculture. And you'll see how there is a contradiction. That in Kenya accounts for around 18.2%. Then, of course, tertiary, which is industry, which currently accounts for 16.2%. Service industry accounts for 65% in our GDP. Now, what is the contradiction? The contradiction is that most of the Kenyans are actually engaged in the primary production, which only accounts for 18%. Most of the on-source revenues of our county governments, from cess to each other, from cess to, not cess the governor, but cess the revenue, is actually money in the primary production. Because primary production is from mining to quarrying to anything else around that. I think our county governments must find a way to also encroach on the other. Because a county government must be able to know, last year how much money did I get on this segment of the GDP? And the contradiction I was talking about is that most of these monies that are collectible by the county government actually comes from the smallest segment of our GDP. In the national level, there are things that we are doing in terms of baking a broader cake. That is why a lot of money has been put into agriculture, primary production in terms of forestry, in terms of we are now logging mature trees, and especially in designated areas. We are currently likely to also lift the moratorium in terms of mining, and I'm sure the county governments are already relating with their own revenues. As I come to the close, a collection of monies, because we are talking about money, both at the county level and the national level, you look at it in 3 dimensions. That is the fiscal dimension, where you craft policies to increase the taxation or the fees or the revenues. Then there is the administration part. The administration part especially is in terms of how much tax, the enforcement of it, the trust of the people to pay that tax, and everything else around enforcement and collection, including digitization. And lastly, as I answer your question, is in terms of legal issues. On legal issues, I would propose to the people, especially our governors, to find a way, and especially the senators, on how we can change our law. Number one, there is a very huge contradiction in how we allocate money. Why? As we talk about this year's equitable share, we are basing it on the audited and approved of 1920 financial year. I think we should go actually the extra mile and not talk about audited and approved, since the entire budget of Kenya is based on projection, and projections are done using science. I think also the allocation, the equitable shares to our counties must also be based on the same parameter. If that was to happen, our counties currently at the same percentage would be receiving close to 500 billion Kenya shillings. At the current scenario in terms of projection, we are just at 15. But we have to hold our hearts in terms of baking the GDP I referred to, which is the cake, so that instead of talking about 2.6 trillion Kenya shillings in terms of projected revenue, then we enhance that in terms of enlarging the tax base, but also consequent, we also strengthen our state so that we raise our collection of revenue in terms of GDP from the current 16%. If we just do like South Africa, 25%, I'm sure the governors here would be smiling all the way to development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Session Chair. I just want to wrap up with an observation. Number one, I agree with our CS National Treasury that the intention of the National Treasury is not to supervise counties. And we want the National Treasury to walk the talk. However, we have a miscellaneous amendment to the PFM Act, which provides for a creation of a committee that will supervise revenue collection by counties. In our view, this is going against the spirit of the theme of this devolution conference, where the National Assembly should be coming up with progressive bills to support and enhance devolution, and not retrogressive bills which are going to claw back on devolution. So in our considered opinion as governors, that proposal of amending the PFM Act to create a committee that will be responsible for approving revenue collection by counties is not a very good bill, and we are asking our senators in the House to support us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a really great discussion. Appreciating all your excellencies. I can now request you to sit down or back to your seats. And for your audience, thanks for their patience. We've really we've had a good discussion, and we appreciate your time. I believe that on record are very actionable proposals that go into future activities or future amendments or future things that we're going to see around devolution. I'm wishing you all a very good session, or the remaining sessions, and the rest of the day. Thank you.
Room and all the other rooms that we're having our meetings, keep your belongings in order. But if you've lost anything, my co-facilitator, Professor Karoti Kanyinga, is reminding me to remind you to please visit our exhibition area. We have many exhibitors. County governments are exhibiting. We have other partners who are also here exhibiting. And we'd like you to go visit each stand. And we want you to please help us judge the best exhibition. So the best exhibitor, look at how well resourced they are. Look at how much information they're providing. Look at how relevant the information they have is to devolution. And all that, please use that to rate who, in your opinion, is the best exhibitor at this year's devolution conference. Ladies and gentlemen, we are waiting for the arrival of our guest speaker, the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. He's already in the grounds and he'll be walking in shortly. In the meantime, I'd like you to watch a recap of what happened yesterday, the activities of yesterday. This video summarizes the whole day yesterday. We had very many activities. Kindly watch it.
Welcome to day one of the Devolution Conference, with this year's theme being the present and the future. We are here at the Eldoret Arboretum, where a tree planting activity will take place and the unveil of the Wall of Fame.
Since March to date, the 47 counties have planted a total of 7.4 million trees.
To ensure that we achieve the expectations
After our opening ceremony. This afternoon, we have several sessions. One is the agriculture sector breakaway section. We have strong food systems for food security and inclusive growth. That's a sub-theme. This session will be moderated by Vinay Votukuru, Chair of the Development Partners Group, with a keynote speaker being Dr. Agnes Kalibata, President of the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa. Vinay will have several panelists joining, including Governor Ken Lusaka,
Governor Nathif Jama, the Honorable Medeka Linturi, the CS for Agriculture, Senator James Kamau Murango, David Gosney, USAID Mission Director, Tito Arunga, Lead FAO Agribusiness and Inclusive Value Chains, Michelle Kagari, Global Director, One Acre Fund, and Talash Hujbaz, who's the CEO in SectiPro. That will be the agriculture sector breakaway session this afternoon. The other breakaway session will be on the health sector and looking at the issues of celebrating a decade of county-led health service delivery, lessons for the future. It's important to look at where we've come and how far we still have to go. This session in the afternoon will be moderated by Liz Ntonjira, who's a communications expert, malaria no more. The keynote speaker in this will be the Honorable Ruchika Singhal, the International President, Medtronic Labs. This session will be chaired by the High Excellency Governor Gladys Wanga, who's the Vice Chair of the COG Health Committee. There will be several panelists, including the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Public Health and Professional Standards, Rita Okude, the Executive Board Chair of CarePay Kenya, Caroline Bindio, the CEO, Amref Health Innovations, David Munyendo, the CEO, Christian Blind Mission, Dr. Susan Ontiri, Country Director, International Center for Reproductive Health, Harriet Kongin, the Policy and Strategy Advisor, UNAIDS, and Brian Retman, who is a PEPFAR coordinator for Kenya. This will be the health sector breakaway session, which will be taking place also this afternoon in one of our breakaway rooms. The other one will be the water, forestry, and natural resources management breakaway session, which will also be this afternoon, moderated by Jason Oyugi, who is a USAID STAWI program. The keynote speaker will be Festus Ngeno, the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Environment and Climate Change. The session will be chaired by Governor Andrew Modime, who is the chairperson of the Water, Forestry, and Natural Resources Management and Governor of Taita Taveta County. The panelists in this one, Dr. Wilbur Otichilo, the Governor of Vihiga and the Chairperson of Environment and Climate Change Committee of the Council of Governors, the Honorable Ali Sohome, CS, Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation, Senator John Medho Mohia, Chairperson, Senate Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources, Dr. Chris Kipto, the Principal Secretary in the National Treasury, Ms. Amanda Robertson, WASH Team Lead at USAID Kenya, Dr. Sam Karidhi, the Country Director at Gatsby Kenya, Cindy Kobe, the Community Advocacy and Awareness Cron Trust, and Dr. Philip Kisoyan, who's the Lead Natural Resource Governance. This will be the Water, Forestry, and Natural Resources Management breakaway. The youth breakaway session will be the other breakaway session this afternoon. The theme will be empowering youth for inclusive economic growth, the role of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda in Kenya, to be moderated by Ms. Wanjohi Njoroge, and the keynote speaker will be Mr. David Bagenda, who is the Country Director, MasterCard Foundation, Kenya. The session will be chaired by Governor Simon Kachapin, Chairperson of the COG Gender, Youth, Culture, Sports and Social Services Committee. Among the speakers and the panelists in this session will be Governor Stephen Sang, the Governor of Nandi County, the Honorable Ababu Namwamba, the CS, Ministry of Youth, the Arts and Sports, Engineer Stephen Ogenga, who is the CEO, National Industrial Training Authority, Ms. Edna Carijo, Digital Skills Program Manager at Immobilis, Abel Mutua, who is a Zero Malaria Starts With Me Ambassador and filmmaker, and Mohamed Golocha, who is the Isiolo Youth Innovation Center Coordinator, and finally Patricia Jalagat, Founder and CEO of Horti Grid Limited. So as you can see, the afternoon is jam-packed. We'll soon be telling you, Prof will come and tell you where each of these breakaway sessions will be taking place. Please just take note of what you'd be interested in so that you know where the breakaway sessions are. One of the breakaway sessions is this particular room. The other breakaway sessions are to my right. You will find them labeled breakaway room 1, 2, 3. Prof.
Thank you very much, Latif. This is where the breakaway rooms will be taking place. The breakaway group on celebrating a decade of county-level health service delivery. Lessons for the future will take place inside this tent. The breakaway room on youth for inclusive economic growth, the role of bottom-up economic transformation agenda in Kenya will take place in tent number 1. Tent number 1. The one on natural resource management for a sustainable development pathway at green economy transition in the counties will take place in tent number 2, where Latif has pointed out. And lastly, the strong food systems for food security and inclusive growth and re-examining the county agricultural sector transformation. The agricultural breakaway room will take place in tent number 1. Please note that and don't forget to also vote for the exhibitions. We shall be sharing the link on exhibitions later on. We ask you for the documentary on the children, the children's documentary to be loaded. Thank you.
These facilities include designated play areas, child-friendly restrooms, and safe spaces for children to engage in age-appropriate activities while their parents or guardians work. In the next 10 years, I believe that Kenya will be much better than it is right now. And here is what the children want our county government to do.
And I would like my governor to help those children who need.
Hello, my name is Amanda. I am 10 years old as Devolution in Kenya. Before I was born, everything was being done in Nairobi. This made it difficult for children from other parts of the country to get services such as health, education, and clean water. But when making the 2010 Constitution, Kenyans, including children, said it is important to have services available to everyone and everywhere. So, the country was divided into, can you guess how many counties? Yes, 47 counties as shown on this map. In 2013, during the general elections, Kenyans voted for their first governors, deputies, and MCAs. So this year, all county governments are 10 years old, just like me. On health, counties have made it easy for us to get healthcare. It is easy to get doctors, nurses, and medicine in clean and well-equipped hospitals. Mandera County, for example, has made efforts towards improved access to maternity services, increased referral hospitals from 1 to 3, and constructed new modern maternity wards. Nakuru County constructed a new 250-bed maternity wing at the Nakuru Level 5 Hospital to meet the demands for safer deliveries and provide specialized care to children born with complications. My younger brother got his jab to protect him from polio and TB.
The areas in which these children can't get access to vaccination, so it has been a really great impact to children so that they can get immunized at school.
We have a lot of areas where it is the risk of the children getting sick is very high, and since the vaccination program came, the risk was getting a bit low.
How many of you have been vaccinated from polio and TB? All of us. Awesome. Can we give a clap to the county governments? Thank you. On education, talking of my younger brother, the county government has made sure he has a beautiful school with really good teachers and lots of toys and books.
We bought tables, chairs, charts.
It has helped in building ECD classes, employing the teachers of ECDE in a girls' school. It has helped in giving the girls sanitary towels.
77% of children who are supposed to be in schools are enrolled in early learning centers. Also, the county works with the Ministry of Education to make sure those of us who don't have money are able to go to schools by providing scholarships.
I'm a beneficiary of county. I'm being sponsored by county since I finished my class 8 KCP.
Something awesome that counties have also done is to make sure all children go to school, even those who are differently abled. They have done this by improving the construction and renovation of schools, parks, and recreational centers with features such as ramps, handrails, and accessible toilets to ensure children with disabilities can navigate these spaces independently.
Since devolution began, Kenyans have enjoyed essential services which have been brought near them.
The digital space is our new reality. To ensure that we are prepared for this new world, county governments provide training programs to students including children in pre-primary, teachers and community members with the aim of enhancing their digital skills.
The county government has improved service delivery by introduction of new learning materials which involve technology like the tablets we use in the resource room.
We cannot learn if we are hungry. Our governors are very caring and so they have ensured that we have food in schools. For example, the Garissa County government gives children a meal every day. The county government of Nairobi has started a program called Dishi Poa for all children enrolled in public primary schools and public ECDE centers.
Huku Garissa County government imesaidia watoto kulipia fees, pia imesaidia kuwapea chakula na inasaidia watoto wenye hawana wazazi mayatima.
In agriculture, where does food come from? From the farms. To ensure we have food, county government are teaching us to farm by making sure that agriculture is part of our ECDE programs. We learn about farming techniques, crop cultivation, and sustainable agricultural practices.
Agriculture is beneficial to the county as it brings about food stability. With the food stability, it can cause children to get proper nutrition as they will be provided with the proper diet.
We cannot have food in our farms if we don't have rain. And rain comes from, yes, trees. County governments have been holding tree planting events in schools and other public areas and involving children who take care of these trees within their schools. The counties have created a good environment for our parents to work. Sometimes we accompany our parents to their workplaces, including markets. To ensure our safety and well-being, county governments have established child-friendly facilities within markets. These facilities include designated play areas, child-friendly restrooms, and safe spaces for children to engage in age-appropriate activities while their parents or guardians work. In the next 10 years, I believe that Kenya will be much better than it is right now. And here is what the children want our county government to do.
And I would like my governor to help those children who need a lot of assistance. For example, those who need scholarships and food provided for them.
We need a road that lead to the school. That road is really not good. It becomes pathetic when it rains.
What I want my governor to do for children is to allocate more funds for local talent support.
What I would like my governor to do is continue with that good work and keep on helping the children, especially the street children.
I am requesting the county government of Homa Bay to provide sanitary towels for the girls in school.
I would like our governor to improve our infrastructure, by giving our children better education and building better hospitals.
Devolution holds immense potential for the realization of our children's rights. By granting children greater access to education, healthcare, and essential services, Devolution has the capacity to create a brighter future for the younger generation. Children should be involved in decisions made in their counties to help them realize their full potential. It's really important to think about issues that matter to children when making laws in the country. We want to plan our own future. There is nothing for us without us. Remember, devolution is all of us, because as much as we are from 47 counties, we are one country, one nation. Long live devolution, long live Kenya!
With the subsidized fertilizer that we got, we are expecting pamba harvest. And in our region, Your Excellency, when you told us to andamane kidogo tu, kwa hiyo maneno mengine, tukaandamana tukaenda kwa shamba. This time, tuko na mahindi ya kutosha, we will all share. So kila mtu ako na sufuria, kuja Uasin Gishu, kuna mahindi ya kutosha, lakini utalipa kidogo. Asante sana, karibuni, Mungu awabariki.
A round of applause for our wonderful host. Next on stage, Ose Akili, the CEO of County Pension Fund. This is one of our great partners as county governments and one of our sponsors in this conference. Our sponsor, you have 5 minutes as agreed.
Thank you very much, Moderator, Your Excellency Governor Sang. I want to write on the protocols already established, but I want to recognize our leader, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, the former Prime Minister, and a team of officials from our opposition leadership, and the leadership of the Kenya Kwanza government, the ministers, the cabinet secretaries, the principal secretaries, the governors present, and honorable members. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been a very dedicated partner of Devolution right from 2013. We have stood closely to Council of Governors. We have supported their programs. We have actually done what was needed to ensure success of this devolution. So today is a day for us as County Pension Fund Arrangement and family to celebrate together with the fraternity of devolution the entire journey and success. I want to thank the various chairmen and chairpersons who have served as chairpersons and leadership of Council of Governors for really recognizing us and accepting us to work together. I want to say that at the dawn of devolution, we recognize one aspect is taking care of the welfare of our employees. And we started a journey with only one member, just like the Chinese say, the first step begins with the long journey turns out in one step. We began with the first member of the County Pension Fund, and I want to say we celebrate our 80,000 member this year, because that is the journey we have made, and the growth of our fund has been tremendous. With the support of the counties, 47 of them, we've grown the fund to over 40 billion and growing at the rate of 5 billion every year. We could have done better if we had the full support of all the 47 governors. I want to request the governors who have not fully supported the fund to do so. Yesterday, I remember hearing the president talking very well about savings, and he said it is going to be the engine of growth of our country. I know that because I have served and I serve in international social security fora, and I know, for example, that the retirement or the pension schemes of the world have made the biggest impact in development and the partners of development in any country. Most of the big infrastructure projects all over the world are funded by pension capital, which is coming from pension funds. Kenya should not be left behind, and in particular, counties should be the first one to utilize their own pension funds. So by supporting County Pension Fund, you are going to aggregate resources which can then be brought back. How do we propose now that we are here to go forward? We are willing to partner with each county which is willing to commercialize their infrastructure development and create a partnership between us and themselves. And all we require is for you to create a pipeline of bankable projects. We are standing in we have an association called APTAC, or Association of Pension Trustees and Administrators of Kenya, where we congregate as pension schemes in Kenya. And through that arrangement, we also partner with the regional pension funds within our different countries in this region. We have actually been able to come together, and we are able to then come back and aggregate and build a big portfolio of investments. But to do that, we've got to have security for the members' money. Our money must earn adequate income, and therefore we talk about bankable projects. So we require, too, that we have to have no challenges of default of payment for those projects. I want to say across the border here in Tanzania, NSSF of Tanzania, with partnership with the government of Tanzania, built a magnificent bridge called Kikamboni across the highland into the mainland, and it was done by the pension fund of Tanzania. They have equally done the chambers of national parliament in Dodoma, and even a university called UDOM, which is a 50,000 university, all built by pension funds. So when I speak about this, it looks like maybe it's not achievable for now, because the money we have is not big. But I want you to see the multiplier effect of us being the lead investor to bring in the world pension funds to actually pay on your developmental needs. Next year, early next year, we have our annual International Pension Conference. And we are going to invite the pension funds of the world to come to Kenya and look at opportunities in this country. So I want to extend an invitation as the president of APTAC to our counties to partner with us so that we arrange that conference. And I can see we have our development partners led by the American government. We will be wanting to partner with the big funds, pension funds in the US, like the Calbas and the Canadian pension funds, the European pension funds. We want to bring them to Africa so that they can actually work. But to do that, we require you to structure a situation, a structure whereby the repayment of those investments should be ring-fenced and deducted directly at the central bank from your CRF accounts so that we don't have any risk of default. If you do that structure, I assure you, governors, we are willing to be your transaction advisors in some of these projects. And I want to say to begin, we are already having conversations with a few counties to develop their county headquarters. And we, of course, require the currency we work with, which is a currency, it is employees coming to our pension fund. Thank you very much for listening to me, and we look forward to a good partnership.
Thank you very much, Osei Akili. We appreciate the kind of partnership we continue to have with your organization. Next on stage is our PS in charge of devolution, State Department of Devolution in the Office of the Deputy President, Madam Teresia Baika, to make her remarks. Karibu, Madam PS.
Thank you very much. The guest speaker of the day, Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, Your Excellencies Governors, Honorable Senators and Members of Parliament, development partners, members of the civil society, the private sector partners, and the media fraternity, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor and privilege as the Principal Secretary in charge of devolution affairs to welcome you to this auspicious occasion, the inaugural biennial devolution conference themed 10 years of devolution, the present and the future. What a time to look back, to celebrate achievements and milestones, and look forward to inspiration to scale even greater heights. The sub-theme is about the devolved system of governance, driving economic transformation from the local level with the county governments as the drivers and centers of economic development. Right Honorable, this is bottom-up economic transformation agenda reloaded. Past devolution conferences have provided a platform for consultative dialogues on the opportunities, prospects, and challenges for deepening devolution towards equitable and proximate service delivery. This year, the discourse, as articulated by the sub-themes and breakaway sessions, is around the 5 core pillars of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, through devolution, the public has witnessed how downward political accountability can be more responsive to people's needs as opposed to the centralized, top-down administrative structures. I wish to reiterate that the government is committed to strengthening devolution, specifically the State Department for Devolution, in strengthening the enabling policy and legal environment. The State Department will continue to support county governments through capacity strengthening and intergovernmental relations. Ladies and gentlemen, several initiatives are ongoing that bolster national government's commitment to devolution. These include the finalization of the valuation and transfer of assets for all the devolved functions, completion of the unbundling and the transfer of all devolved functions. Additionally, the Cabinet has adopted the Kenya policy on public participation. This policy is based on the need to achieve the constitutional imperatives on public participation, hence the need to set standards and provide the mechanisms for coordination of public participation at both levels of government. These initiatives, among others, will go a long way in strengthening the capacity of county governments for improved performance in delivery of service. Ladies and gentlemen, 10 years of devolution and the achievements give us all a reason to celebrate, but importantly, the credibility to blow our trumpet. Devolution has been transformative. Just to mention a few, money and resources are going to places they never used to. Citizens are engaged with the development and governance processes, and more so demanding accountability. And services have moved closer to the people. The fact that we are in Eldoret for a national event is a testament to that the country is visibly and tangibly different than it was in 2010, when all roads led to Nairobi. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, it would be remiss of me not to recognize the exemplary work by the Council of Governors and the leadership of our chair, Madam Anne Waiguru, and the Secretariat led by the CEO, Mary Mwiti, to deliver this year's conference with precision and excellence. Your team spirit is laudable. I singularly appreciate His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, for gracing the occasion yesterday and reiterating the Kenya Kwanza government commitment to devolution. Our governors for being part of the process and committing to ensuring that devolution works. And finally, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga for acceptance to grace this auspicious occasion. Strengthened devolution, stronger Kenya. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, PS Teresia Mbaika. Next is a presentation on the status of the action points from the 7th and final annual devolution conference and the introduction of the devolution steering committee by our very own Governor FCPA Ahmed Abdullahi, the CEOG Vice Chair. Karibu sana, Your Excellency.
Excellency Governors, Honorable Senators, the CS for National Treasury who's here, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of the Steering Committee of the 2023 Devolution Conference, it's my sincere pleasure and honor to welcome you all to this remarkable conference whose overall theme is 10 years of devolution, the present and the future, and the sub-theme, driving transformation from local level, county governments at the center of economic development. This is the 8th devolution conference, but it's the first biennial devolution conference. The decision to host a conference once 2 years arose when we established that there is need to give ourselves ample time to implement the resolutions that arise from the conference. It's been 10 years since the devolution journey in Kenya began. Some of us are pioneer governors, while others joined the family of devolution in the last general election held a year ago. All of us have witnessed the benefits of devolution, but have also felt and experienced some of the challenges. It will be remiss of us to move forward without taking stock of the good and the bad. The Right Honorable former Prime Minister, distinguished guests, in 2021, we convened in Makueni County for the 7th and the final annual devolution conference, where the deliberations held culminated in a joint communique containing 33 areas of commitment. I'm happy to report that there's been significant progress in the implementation of all the resolutions made during the conference. I wish to give a highlight of the key areas in the status implementation, just capturing the very salient recommendations that were captured in the communique, because it will be impractical to go through all the 33 of them. On addressing the impact of climate change, which was the main theme of that conference, in January this year, the President commissioned the government's initiative of planting 15 billion trees by 2032. County governments have so far, ahead of the planned schedule, planted 7.4 million trees in the last 4 months as a run-up to this conference. 46 counties have enacted climate change acts, policies, and regulations, and have further established county climate change funds. All the 47 counties have established and designated offices for climate change units. On environment and specifically tree growing, the Council, with the support of the UNDP, has developed a model policy and bill on tree growing to enable counties create a conducive policy and legal framework for forestry. On agriculture, both levels of governments, in order to increase investment in the arid and semi-arid areas of south, both levels of governments have co-created the Horn of Africa de-risking, inclusion and value enhancement drive initiative for pastoralist economies. This is a $360 million project funded by the World Bank and partners aimed at enhancing pastoralist access to financial services. On trade and manufacturing, while adopting green technologies, both levels of government are working together to build Kenya's manufacturing agenda with the aim of eliminating unemployment and placing the country as a regional manufacturing hub. On innovation, many counties have developed innovation hubs and accelerator programs for youth and providing subsidies and incentives to youth-driven green innovations and businesses to facilitate the designing and building of innovations around climate change. On the blue economy, the State Department of the Blue Economy and Fisheries, in collaboration with many of the counties, have developed National Blue Economy Strategy and is scheduled to be launched this year. On urban development and infrastructure, counties and municipalities are developing resilient infrastructure projects aimed at addressing some of the climate change effects. This has been achieved through the construction of disaster risk management centers, fire stations, construction of stormwater drainages to help address flooding. I wish to leave it at that for now. Further details on the progress of the implementation of these resolutions can be found on our Marifa Center online platform, www.marifa.cog.go.ke. The Council of Governors takes this early opportunity to thank all stakeholders who have contributed towards the successful implementation of the recommendation of the 2021 communique. In the same breath, allow me to sincerely thank the County Government of Singishu and all partners who have supported this conference financially and with technical expertise. I wish us all fruitful deliberations across the main plenums and breakaway sessions and an exceptional learning experience. Your Excellency, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, your invitation here today to be a chief guest is in recognition also of the fact that you have really been at the center of fighting for a new constitution in Kenya, which constitution enabled us to have devolution. We don't take for granted the effort and the struggles that you have taken in your political life to get us as a country to where we are, and we will always and forever appreciate that as a country. I thank you all.
Another round of applause for our Vice Chair. The steering committee, we really want to appreciate. Can we have all the steering committee members to stand? Just be upstanding for us to appreciate. The steering committee members that were led by the Vice Chair. The steering committee members. Let us appreciate them. Let's appreciate them. Thank you so much for a wonderful conference that you have organized. And we also want to thank Singishu County Government for the same. Asanteni sana, you can have your seats. Your Excellency, former Prime Minister, as part of the activities running towards this devolution conference, we had a children's devolution conference. This was done, or this happened in Kiambu County. The presentation of the resolutions of the children's conference, and I want to invite Grace Nabiswa to come and make the presentations on behalf. Let's appreciate Grace as she comes. So we had a wonderful, and we want to thank Kiambu County Government, led by Governor Kimani Wamatangi, for a wonderful support that you gave the Children's Devolution Conference. Grace Nabiswa, the floor with your colleague, the floor is yours for you to give us the resolutions. Karibu.
Yes, the Right Honorable former Prime Minister, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, Excellency Governors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Grace Nabiswa Nafula from Moi Girls High School, Eldoret. I am the school captain there. I am also the Deputy Governors for the Children Devolution Conference 2023. And besides me is my governor and the children's governor for the Devolution Conference 2023 from Kedoa Special School for the Deaf. Yes. So we are here to present the children's communique for the Devolution Conference 2023. We, the children drawn from 47 counties, gathered for the Children's Devolution Conference 2023 from the 3rd to the 7th July at M-Pesa Foundation Academy in Kiambu. More united than ever in our determination to have our voices heard in the leadership and governance of the country and set the course for a better future for all children in Kenya. Appreciating the efforts of the national government and county government in improving the lives and ensuring we enjoy our rights as stated in the Constitution of Kenya and other international laws and statuses, in particular the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, UNCRC. Recalling all previous children's devolution conferences and pronouncements in relation to children's issues, as well as the vision of the Children Act 2022. Noting the need for government and non-governmental stakeholders to make progress to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, including vocational education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all resilient, just, and prospering societies. Deeply concerned by the alarming cases of harmful cultural practices and teenage pregnancies leading to the dropping out of young girls from school. Firmly denouncing all forms of violence against children, be they physical, emotional, sexual, economical, social, cultural, or otherwise. Stressing the need for a robust multi-stakeholder engagement on the implementation of child protection strategies for sustainable development agenda in the country. This will include consolidating efforts, resources, and mainstreaming of child protection agenda in national and county development plans. Accordingly, we call upon both the national government and county governments to take the following concrete steps. On devolution and children's rights, review all laws and policy to ensure universal access to children's rights, leaving no one behind, especially teenage girls who fall pregnant while in school. Establish a Children's Council of Governors comprising of children governors for each of the 47 counties. Provide professional counselors in every school to ensure mental well-being of both the learners and the teachers. Additionally, provide medical cover for the learners in primary schools as it is in the case for learners in secondary schools. Review the Public Finance Management Act 2012, Section 137, 1, to provide for children's representation in the County Budget and Economic Forum, CBEF. Replicate the school feeding programs in Mombasa and Nairobi across all counties to ensure access to school by all the learners. Ensure advocacy on safety and security of children living in conflict-prone settings so that they enjoy their rights such as access to safe and quality education and healthcare services. Guarantee access to justice for all children and expedition of cases in the justice system involving children. We further call upon justice actors to ensure strengthening of accountability mechanisms to bring perpetrators of violence against children to justice. On child participation in governance, sensitize and popularize the Kenya's Children Assembly as a platform of airing and sharing children's views. Organize sensitization forums for the children on the Children's Act 2020 so that we can understand our rights and obligations. Engage children in charitable children's institutions before the next Children Devolution Conference and share a plan on where children with no families will be placed. On inclusivity for all children, through the relevant ministries, develop legal framework to obligate governments to provide accessible infrastructure and services to ensure friendliness of facilities and services to children with disabilities. Provide essential personalized services and up-to-date equipment and materials for the learners with disabilities to realize their right to education. This includes, but not limited to, talking calculators, braille machines, walking sticks, wheelchairs, among others. On talent development, devolve the Talanta Hela program to all counties to support talent development. Further, the national government to provide equipment and facilities for children talent development at the local level. Inclusion of all children in the talent development programs by the private sector institutions such as Women in Technology program and the Chapandimba. On environment and climate change, we reiterate our commitment to protecting the environment and call upon everyone to take personal responsibility in the mitigation of the effects of climate change. We call upon the national and the county governments to involve children and invest in renewable energies, green and blue economies, as well as other modern energy technologies such as electric vehicles and bicycles. We commit as children to contribute to the national campaign on growing 15 billion trees during our time in and out of school. Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development and other relevant stakeholders to develop a strategy on integration of climate change education into the curriculum. We remain committed and recognize the need for conveying a unified message from children of Kenya to our leaders, because there is nothing for us without us. We reiterate that representatives of children should be regularly invited to participate and share their experiences in all gatherings concerning children and their needs. We further urge the relevant ministry to develop guidelines for the regular participation of children in such forums. Finally, we appreciate the Council of Governors and other organizers for the Children Devolution Conference 2023. We strongly call upon Conference 2023, Grace Nabiswa, Deputy Governor, Children Devolution Conference 2023, received on behalf of the national government by Dr. Belio Kipsang, CBS Principal Secretary, State Department of Basic Education, Ministry of Education, and His Excellency Mutahi Kahiga, EGH, Governor, Nyeri County Education Committee, Councils of Governors. I now hand over the communique to the Chair of the Council of Governors, Her Excellency Anne Waiguru.
Let's appreciate the governor and the deputy governor of the Children's Devolution Conference as they present Safaricom. We want to really, in a very special way, appreciate the sponsorship. You sponsored the entire Children's Devolution Conference. We are very grateful. Asanteni sana. The remaining speeches are going to be very, very brief because we are running out of time and we want our chief guest to have adequate time to address us. Next on stage, remarks by the Senate Minority Leader, Senator Justice Retired Stewart Mazayo, to come and make his remarks. Karibu sana, Senator.
For today, the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga, Cabinet Secretaries, His Excellency the Governors, my principals, colleagues of the Senate, all protocol observed, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here today to meet and interact with you, honorable members, as we discuss our adequate financing for county governments for efficient services delivery. This meeting is very important as it accords us the opportunity to reflect on the devolution story, having walked the devolution journey for the last 10 years. And I'm glad to be part and parcel of that journey since it started 10 years ago. Let me confess that I'm happy to have the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga present as the chief of guests today. We know he's the main force behind devolution. Indeed, he is the father of devolution. We owe him a great deal for advocating tirelessly despite facing pushbacks along the way. The last 10 years of devolution have had their fair share of successes and challenges. I'm, however, concerned by the low rate of absorption of these funds to develop for development purposes. We are all called as leaders to do a better job for our people. And this must, at all times, be our guiding philosophy. We should spend the entire allocation on development positively, contribute towards the country's growth and service delivery. Although devolution has brought some success in bringing government closer to Kenyan citizens and advancing development, evidence shows that corruption is a major challenge affecting most county governments. It is indeed my humble appeal that we should expose corruption and fight it out. In conclusion, I want to emphasize that the spirit of devolution in Kenya is not about two levels of competing, but complementing each other for efficient and effective service delivery to the citizens. I urge my colleagues at the Senate not to abrogate their oversight duty in holding the county governments accountable. I thank you.
The remarks will be made by the Deputy Majority Leader, Owen Baya. Tumpigie makofi tafadhali.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you. The Right Honorable Raila Odinga, distinguished guests, excellent governors, county officials, fellow citizens, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. As we gather here today to commemorate a decade of devolution under the theme 10 years of devolution, the present and the future, driving transformation from the local level, we stand at a critical juncture in our nation's journey. Devolution has been a cornerstone of our efforts to bring governance closer to the people, empower our counties, and catalyze economic growth from the grassroots up, that is bottom up. It has enabled the circulation of resources and funds at the local level, leading to improved infrastructure, enhanced livelihoods, and the realization of a brighter future for all Kenyans. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference takes place at a pivotal moment as we gather here today. For the first time in 10 years of devolution, the national government has disbursed all funds due to counties before the closure of the financial year. This speaks volumes of the commitment of the national government to the growth and development of our counties. With this significant stride, county governors are now better equipped than ever to deliver essential services to the people of Kenya. This achievement underscores the national government's dedication to the welfare of all Kenyans and sets the stage for tangible progress at the grassroots. However, this is also a moment that demands greater accountability and transparency from our county leaders. It is imperative that county governors understand that this moment is not an opportunity for mismanagement of public funds or personal enrichment. It is a moment to channel resources towards the development of our regions and the empowerment of our citizens. This is not a time for the construction of opulent mansions or the establishment of personal fiefdoms. Instead, it is a time for governors to uphold the trust that the people have placed in them, to prioritize the needs of their constituents, and to serve with integrity and purpose. Ladies and gentlemen and fellow delegates, while the national government has shown its commitment to empowering counties, we must also address the need for a balanced system of checks and balances at the local level. Just as our national parliament operates independently from the executive branch with its own budget, it is time to extend a similar level of independence to our county assemblies. The initiative to grant county assemblies financial autonomy is a vital step towards strengthening their oversight role and ensuring that they can fulfill their mandate without fear or favor. By granting county assemblies financial independence, we empower them to exercise their oversight functions in a robust and impartial manner. This independence will enable them to hold the county executives accountable for their actions without succumbing to undue pressure or intimidation. It will also foster an environment where transparent governance thrives, where accountability is upheld, and where the people's interests are truly served. Ladies and gentlemen, even as we celebrate our achievements, we must confront the shadows that dim our progress. It is with a sense of urgency and responsibility that we must address the issues of stalled projects and underutilized county projects. Billions of shillings have been poured into initiatives that should have propelled our counties towards prosperity, only to find that these projects are abandoned, incomplete, or worse yet, vandalized because we have a change of a governor. This is a stark reminder that we cannot rest our laurels. We must take action to rectify these shortcomings. The 2021-2022 audit report by the Auditor General paints a concerning picture. We have seen counties spend significant sums of taxpayers' money on projects that lie dormant, lacking the transformative impact they are designed to deliver. These resources could have been directed towards initiatives that truly uplift the lives of our people and drive holistic development. This situation, ladies and gentlemen, is untenable and calls for a collective effort to reverse the tide of waste and management. Further, the scourge of divisive and personalized politics casts a dark cloud over our development endeavors. The rise of white elephant projects, coupled with the unfortunate practice of abandoning projects due to changing political leadership, serves as a painful reminder of how personal agendas can outweigh the needs of our citizens. We must acknowledge that these actions undermine the very essence of a devolution, the essence that places our counties at the heart of economic growth and empowerment. Let us be clear. It is not about who initiated these projects, but about the impact they can have on the lives of our people. We owe it to ourselves and to future generations to rise above partisan politics and prioritize the common good. It is not bad politics. It is a disservice to our citizens to abandon ongoing projects and embark on new ones that might serve as mere tokens of political ambition. The sight of incomplete projects scattered across our nation serves as a stark reminder of our failure to deliver on our promises. We must find a way to harness the collective energy and expertise of leaders from all corners of the nation. I therefore implore all county leaders to embrace continuity and strive to complete projects that were initiated before their tenure. This is not only an act of fiscal responsibility, but also a demonstration of commitment to our people's welfare. By ensuring that projects we start are seen through to completion, we uphold the true spirit of devolution and ensure that the hard-earned money of our taxpayer is put to its intended use. As we stand at this crossroads, ladies and gentlemen, let us recommit ourselves to the principles of unity, progress, and empowerment. Let us transcend the barriers of political divides and be remembered as leaders who put the needs of our people first. Lastly, let us honor the spirit of devolution by completing projects that have the potential to transform lives, and in doing so, safeguard the vision and integrity of this noble endeavor. Thank you, and may we all work together to realize the full potential of devolution for the betterment of every Kenyan. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Another round of applause for the Deputy Majority Leader. On behalf of the Speaker, Amason Jaffa Kingi, Speaker of the Senate, we are Senator Veronica Maina, member of the Speaker's panel, to make the remarks on behalf of the Speaker of the Senate. Karibu sana, Senator Veronica Maina.
Thank you very much, Governor Sang. Our chief guest for today, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, former Prime Minister, Your Excellency Governor Anne Waiguru, Chairperson, Council of Governors, Your Excellency Governor Jonathan B., Host Governor Uasin Gishu County, all senators and members of Parliament present, our Honorable Speaker of National Assembly, all governors present, Cabinet Secretaries and PSs present, Honorable Speakers of County Assemblies, Honorable Members of the County Assemblies, members of the diplomatic corps, representatives of development partners and agencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Prior to the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, the state of affairs was characterized by glaring economic imbalance driven by skewed distribution of resources and opportunities. This resulted in the exclusion and marginalization of some parts of the country and undermined our desire to remain one great united nation. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 was therefore the culmination of a long quest for reforms to negotiate the social contract by the Kenyan people. The concept of devolution was among the most prominent features that enticed the majority of Kenyans to back it in the national referendum held that same year. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, there is no doubt, therefore, that the purpose and the ultimate goals of devolution were to spur and accelerate Kenya's socio-economic transformation from the grassroots to ultimately make it competitive at the global stage. In the present political dispensation, this dovetails with the Kenya Kwanza manifesto of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, Better 2022 to 2027, whose core vision is to uplift the lives of ordinary Kenyans. I am confident that this noble intention will yield great results as county governments play a significant role in their niche as framed by the 5 pillars of our economic transformation agenda, namely agriculture, micro, small and medium enterprises, housing and settlement, healthcare, digital highway, and creative economy. Dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen, as a country, we take pride in the fact that although we face daunting challenges in our 10-year devolution journey, we have countless success stories that should serve to inspire and motivate us to redouble our efforts. Dividends of devolution are now notable and conspicuous, with massive improvement in road networks, infrastructure in our healthcare system, modern stadiums, markets for fresh market produce, and more business and employment opportunities created for Kenyans. While we applaud these commendable achievements, we continue to face a myriad of challenges that have undermined the full potential of our devolved units. Article 175B of the Constitution envisages availability of adequate funds as a key pillar of the endeavor by devolved units to govern themselves and render services to Kenyans. To this extent, it is anticipated that both the national government and county governments would work in concert to establish reliable sources for revenue for the implementation of devolution. However, ladies and gentlemen, as we are all aware, counties have largely, if not completely, relied on exchequer disbursements for their survival. On-source revenue as a financial lifeline for counties still remains a mirage. Yet, it is on-source revenue that promises to guarantee the ultimate financial liberty. This is what should now constitute the crux of deliberations and collaborative engagements between county governments, the national government, and development partners. Undeniably, this will occasion the need to enhance capacity of devolved units, both in terms of available infrastructure and human resource needed to undertake this task. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to reiterate that as the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, we are fully committed to supporting the transformation through necessary legislative interventions and the requisite legal framework. And we are glad to hear that through the speech delivered by Majority Leader, that National Assembly will support this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to robust and progressive recommendations from this conference that will help frame and inform our engagements in the devolution space while allowing us to break new ground in the implementation of devolved governance. I thank you all for listening. Thank you.
Another round of applause to Senator Veronica Maina for that wonderful speech. It's now my honor to invite the COG Chair, Governor Anne Waiguru, to come and make her remarks, recognize the invited guest, and invite our chief guest. Karibu sana, Madam Chair. Nice. Or you can leave it, that's fine.
Our guest, our chief guest today, Your Excellency, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, former Prime Minister, Excellency Governors and Deputy Governors present, members of the Executive, Cabinet Secretaries and Principal Secretaries, representatives of constitutional commissions and independent offices, leaders of Uasin Gishu County and the Great Rift region, ambassadors and high commissioners, members of county assemblies, all national government and county government representatives, private sector and civil society representatives, and development partners, international delegates, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Allow me, before I begin, not to go through the whole recognition that we did yesterday. I think yesterday we already recognized all the participants that are here. Your Excellency, Right Honorable former Prime Minister, there's representatives from the county executives. We have representatives from the county assembly, quite a huge number. We have speakers, deputy governors. We have from the national government, cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries. We also have a diplomatic community also represented in this room, private sector, and many other partners that are with us. So allow me not to go through the individual representation or recognition of the people who are here. We already did that yesterday. We also have most of our governors from the various counties who are here, and we recognized them yesterday by name. Allow me to mention just two that were not recognized yesterday. We have some former governors. We did not recognize them yesterday, so if there's any former governors in the room, kindly stand up just for us to recognize you. Yes, we have the former governors. I would like to recognize two former chairs of the Council of Governors, Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, Governor for Kakamega, former Governor of Kakamega, and Governor Isaac Ruto, also former Governor of Bomet and was also chair of the council. We have former Governor Mwangi wa Iria from Murang'a, who was also former vice chair of the Council of Governors. On behalf of the Council of Governors, I take this opportunity to welcome you, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, to the Devolution Conference 2023. As a council, we are honored and truly privileged by your presence here this second day of the conference. Your Excellency, Right Honorable, this year our discussions are guided by the theme 10 years of devolution, the present and the future, and the sub-theme is driving transformation from the local level, county governments as the center of economic development. Speakers and members of parliament, ambassadors and high commissioners, chief executive officers of multinational corporations, and many more distinguished guests. I acknowledge and appreciate that the drafters of the overall program and the breakaway session programs align them to the President's bottom-up economic transformation agenda. The overall plenum sessions focus on performance management for quality and sustainable service delivery, digitalization of services, financing of county governments, good governance practices, and affirmative action. The break cycle of devolution, and moving forward, we are placing special focus on delivering accessible, available, and quality services to all Kenyans. I'm elated that the first plenum of this entire conference, conducted yesterday morning, paid attention to how county governments can aptly perform management as a tool, can apply performance management as a tool for strengthening effective service delivery. Every step we are making at the county level is geared towards ensuring each Kenyan from all corners of the country experiences socio-economic transformation. I am aware that the reflections of yesterday's breakaway sessions generated meaningful resolutions on strengthening primary health care, provision of housing, positioning counties as trade and investment destinations, and building the blue economy sector for the benefit of local communities. Distinguished guests, one of my highlights from yesterday was the launch of the Devolution book by His Excellency the President. There is a saying, it is not taboo to go back and fetch what you forgot. The teaching here is that it is important to understand our history and learn from it so that we can build a better future. The Devolution book is a publication that seeks to enlighten readers on the history of decentralization in Kenya and the country's transition from a centralized to a devolved system. It aims to help us learn from the past. I request, Right Honorable former Prime Minister, that you secure a copy for your read before you leave. We will be very happy to give it to you as a gift from the Council. I am very happy that the sessions held this morning focused on two issues that are dear to us: leveraging on digitalization to spur economic development and financing of county governments. Over the last 10 years, many a time, the issue of resourcing of county functions has made headlines. At this juncture, when our investments are rooted towards building strong and sustainable service delivery systems, county governments will continue to push for adequate financing, and we are becoming innovative in the way we mobilize resources for the county functions. I will mention that for the first time in 10 years, county governments got their full allocation for the year 2022-2023 from the national government before the end of the financial year. We also got, to our surprise, the disbursement for July right on time, and therefore, as we speak, counties have been given resources according to budget requirements on time, and we pray that this will be the trend going forward. I am very happy that the sessions held this morning focused on two issues: leveraging digitalization to spur economic development. And many speakers have mentioned the issue of increasing on-source revenue, and most counties are already implementing this. In the first day, we signed an MOU with Safaricom, on which over 20 counties are already shown an interest to improve their revenue collection. The next 1.5 days is looking exciting. We all anticipate a good discussion in the sector sessions this afternoon. These sessions will focus on food security, pathways to a green economy, youth empowerment, and technology in the health services. Right Honorable ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, let me congratulate all the recipients of Devolution Warrior Awards at yesternight's gala dinner. I am aware that 2 of my former colleagues received recognition for their commitment and outstanding service to Devolution, and I take this opportunity to thank them for their wonderful contributions to making Devolution work. They were Professor Kivuta Kibwana and former Governor of Makueni and former Chairperson Governor Isaac Ruto, former Governor of Bomet, were awarded as Devolution champions yesternight. To all the recipients of the awards, continue to be Devolution champions. We appreciate you. And as we continue to implement Devolution, both levels of government need to continue consulting. As the good book says, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. A lot needs to be done to lift the lives of millions of Kenyans from poverty, significantly reduce unemployment, and keep the country on a path to socio-economic development. Those of us in leadership positions have been entrusted by the people of Kenya with a singular task of delivering the promises embodied in Article 174 of the Constitution of Kenya. I now would like to take this opportunity to invite Your Excellency, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, to make his keynote address. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. The Chair of the Council of Governors, Governor Anne Waiguru, the Deputy, other governors who are here present today, all protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen, hamjambo. Hamjambo tena. Hey, I feel very, very delighted and intimidated to be found to be here today. I am happy to come. I was invited to come, and I was reminded that this is the 8th of the summit that we're holding. And I just realized that I have been with you in all the 8 summits that you have held. So I was very happy to come again here today. Now, before I say anything else, I just want to introduce those who have come with me. 2 you have already been introduced. Your immediate former chairman, Governor Wycliffe Ambetsa of Paranya, former Governor Kakamega, Governor Mwangi Wairia, but I'm also here with the former Minister for Defense, the leader of DNA Party, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa. I'm also here with the chairman of Roots Party, Professor George Wajakoya. Those are Wanazimio who have accompanied me to come here. We are all very delighted. And seeing what is in the media today and also seeing what was said yesterday, I wondered what I should term my talk to you today. I looked at all the messages were given yesterday, and I said, maybe, it's like Swahili say, that nyani haoni kundule. That means that the baboon does not see its back, not his buttocks. So when the baboons are up on the tree, the one which is lower down looks at the one which is higher up and saying, ngef, ngef. And laughs at the other one, saying that his buttocks are red. And he does not know that his buttocks are also red. This is what I saw yesterday. And maybe when I talk, you would realize what I mean. It is a pleasure to be here with you today to celebrate a decade of devolution. I want to take this early opportunity to commend the Council of Governors. You have been able to find a way around our sometimes toxic and divisive politics. You have been able to create a leadership that looks past party and political differences and moves you forward as a team. I commend you for your ability to mend fences and build bridges. I want to encourage you to continue on this path of consensus building, mutual respect, and decorum. 10 years into devolution, Kenya is a much transformed landscape with an amazing opportunity for rural economic revival and transformation. There is now economic life in rural areas. Some previously dead towns and market centers are beaming with the life after devolution. The prospect of Kenyans taking charge of their destiny and driving their own development is alive today because of devolution. A new middle class, whose members have not stepped into any major city in Kenya, is rising in the villages across Kenya, thanks to devolution. Devolution's success is a success story. It's a testimony to what we can achieve as a nation when we decide to pursue big dreams, no matter how daunting the obstacles may seem. As a country, we must congratulate ourselves for having endorsed devolution 13 years ago. And we must always remember it was not an easy victory. When we first unveiled devolution as a campaign platform in 2007 election, the proponents, including yours truly, were vilified and accused of planning to break Kenya up. We stood our ground and pushed devolution into that. Even today, as you try to imagine and dream how best devolution can deliver more for our people, as you try to test and stretch the limits of devolution, you face skepticism and fears that you may be wrong and that it might destroy your political careers. My advice is that you dream on and soldier on. And I know that anybody who decides to go and run as a governor is himself already convinced that devolution can work. And I encourage you to remember the words of President Franklin Roosevelt. I quote, "The only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. Let us move forward with a strong and active faith," unquote. Devolution continues to have doubters, but devolution can no longer be a loser without the nation losing. Excellencies, at this forum, I have the warm feeling of a person among friends who think alike and have the same goals and aspirations. As far as devolution goes, my aspirations and those of the governors are aligned. We may have differed here and there about the management of our affairs at both the national and county levels. But when it comes to devolution, I believe our differences are only as to the method of attaining a goal. There has never been, and there shall never be, an argument between us about the goal. We all appreciate devolution. We all want devolution. In some counties, devolution has achieved in 10 years what the national government was never able to achieve in 50 years. You know the challenges facing devolution. For instance, funding remains inadequate and its flow uneven and unpredictable. The controller of budget and central bank need to relook at the law. The County Allocation of Revenue Act, CARA, contains a disbursement schedule. And I was sitting next to the former governor, who is now the Minister for Finance, and I told him exactly the same thing. Therefore, the administrative step of Treasury writing a letter to CBK to release funds should not arise. CBK should implement CARA full stop. Bureaucracy at the Office of the Controller of Budget continues to hold back devolution. There's a worrying clash of vision and responsibility between county chief executives and the members of county assemblies. As the first port of call across the villages, MCAs have real concerns like remuneration and facilitation that ought to be addressed. That ought to be addressed in the interest of harmonious working relationship with the county dream bearers who are the governors. And you see the Nyani Aoni Kundule. Across the 47 counties, the wage bill has become uncontrollable and continues to eat into what should go into the development. Even more worrying is the continuing duplication of functions. More money continues to be spent at Afya House, Kilim House, and Maji House in Nairobi for the roles that are devolved. Yani aone kunduli. In the Finance Act 2023, the budget for health has grown by 32 billion shillings at the national level. Recurrent expenditure alone has increased by 17%, yet most of the health functions are devolved. Today, fertilizers are procured and distributed by the national government. Affordable housing is being conceptualized and implemented by the national government. The government wants to build markets and employ community health workers. All these are devolved functions whose money should be released to the counties. Ten years into devolution, this tug of war between the counties and the national government needs to come to an end. In this tug of war, the Commission of Revenue Allocation continues to be ignored, making revenue sharing between national and county governments and among counties uneven and more political than professional. Nyani aoni kuduli. As we castigate the national government, let us worry over devolved corruption. Oversight seems concentrated at the national level, while the graft stalks devolution at every turn. The interplay between oversight institutions like the county assemblies, Auditor General, the Senate, and the investigative and prosecutorial arms is weak, and the institutions not working together. But I want to say that it's not only that the corruption has been devolved, corruption has also remained very big at the national level. So the national level has no business talking to you about devolved corruption. When assemblies and the Senate inquire into a matter, the best they can do is recommend investigation. When investigators complete their work, the best they can do is to recommend prosecution. And there is, of course, no guarantee that the courts will punish the wrongdoers. Let us address these man-made challenges once and for all, so that we can unleash the full transformative capacities of our counties. We need a constant and consistent monitoring of all laws governing devolution to ensure their implementation and to add statutes whenever they are needed. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we meet at a time our country is facing real grave threats. This is a reality check backed by government data. The economy is struggling. Our national currency is severely weakened. The shilling has fallen by 10% since March this year. Our people have been hit hard by punitive taxes and consequent rise in the cost of living. We have runaway unemployment. Our healthcare system is broken. We face challenges with food security at a time climate change is turning everything upside down. From farming to healthcare to provision of water and infrastructure, nothing is the same or predictable anymore. Unfortunately for governors, you are stationed where the desperation, the need, and the expectations are highest. That is, at the grassroots, where people want instant solutions. I believe that as a country, we are lucky to be going through these challenges in the era of devolution. I believe that if county governments were not here to absorb some of the shock and act as cushion, the economic and governance challenges Kenya is going through today would have overwhelmed and overrun the national government. To continue providing buffers for our country and respond to the cries of the people, counties need a tremendous amount of financial resources in a timely and predictable manner. The national government, therefore, needs to understand and appreciate counties as necessary partners in the journey for a successful Kenya. The problems and responsibilities the people and the counties face today demand that we reevaluate and strengthen our commitment to preserve the place of the county government and bestow it with the power, the authority, the responsibilities, and the revenues necessary to discharge those roles and meet expectations. In times like these, county government may be tempted to do what the national government is doing, which is to increase charges for services they provide to generate more revenue. And I was listening to the talk about its own revenue. I see it differently. I believe this is the time for county government to act compassionately and responsibly. The problems our people face today require that we invest within our means in programs that create jobs and put money into the people's pockets. Counties don't have to copy and paste what the national government is doing. I encourage you to be own models for innovation and creativity. Rather than extract more from the pockets of equally suffering masses, I encourage you to continue to provide communities and families with the tools they need to succeed so that they can, in return, finance counties without too much pain. Being on the ground, governors have no time to get into a lot of ideological debates that consume our politics in Nairobi. Counties should have no time for merely making commitments and announcements. Governors have to be practical. You will do well and set examples when you back up your pronouncements with concrete action at the level of policy and practice. I believe that the work that you do, if done well, will with time have a concrete impact on the debate at the national level. This is the time to provide record amounts of assistance to our farmers to enable them save us from the routines of famine, food imports, and food inflation. This is the time for financial inclusion programs and ensure the money reaches the intended recipients. This is the time to work on turning your towns into smart cities of tomorrow, equipped with world-class amenities. I encourage you to soldier on and double your efforts at light manufacturing and value addition as a way of generating revenue and putting money into people's pockets. With focus, you should be able to set up world-class investment and industrial regions along dedicated corridors of your counties to aid manufacturing. I want to encourage you to particularly promote labor-intensive manufacturing because it puts money into the people's pockets. And I'm talking to you as a manufacturing engineer. Put focus on building infrastructure, including roads, electricity, and water and farm irrigation. This will yield returns. We have to ensure that our policies are predictable and tax regimes stable. Ease of doing business in your counties must therefore be a prime concern. Investors need the assurance that the rules of engagement are the easiest that can be. Remove bureaucracy. With such clarity, you will be able to create employment opportunities, encourage enterprise, and to create a bigger job market for our youth, widening your base for revenue. I believe it is time, again within your means, to allocate some of the money from own revenue to a cash transfer program to help protect the poor at the grassroots. I want to encourage you to continue with cooperation between counties. At the same time, however, we need a competitive element among counties to prevent the temptation to just maintain the status quo. Let us compete even as you cooperate. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I want to disclose to you a reality slowly taking shape in our country, but which many of us, including the governors, may not notice. While national politicians may be getting all the attention, the action of translating policies into improvement of livelihoods is actually being determined by governors, county assemblies, and county governments. I see immense possibility for our county-driven growth and leadership in our country. I see potential for a county-driven quantum leap in our country. This hidden reality is not limited to one section of our region. The potential is unlimited. Be open to ideas, investments, and innovations. You may just be the team that put the country on the path to a reversible takeoff. I want to conclude by referring to what Governor Jonathan B. said, the host governor, that they are expecting bumper harvest in this region because they did mandamanos in the farms instead of doing the mandamanos on the streets or carrying sufurias. I want to tell him that this katiba that we have is a product of mandamano. And I also want to remind that if mandamano can help families whose children were cheated or money being taken to Finland, there's nothing wrong with mandamano. What is wrong is police brutality. And finally, I want to tell a rogue ambassador, leave Kenyans alone. If mandamano can lead to a dialogue between Ichungwa and Kalonzo, everything is good with mandamano. Tell the rogue ambassador, Kenya is not United States. Kenya is not a colony of the United States. Keep your mouth shut when you hear. Otherwise, we will call for your recall back to your country. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause, please, for the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Asante sana. Our guests would like now to welcome the Chair of the Council plus other governors for a photo session. But we're also going to have a gift courtesy of the Council of Governors Steering Committee that organized the Devolution Conference. So this photo is the Right Honorable Prime Minister and the 47 governors, those who were present. The next photo is going to be the Right Honorable Prime Minister and senators present. You've done it. Asanteni sana, asante sana. Oh, Governor Malombo was not caught in the photo. There you go. Asanteni sana. Next up, I'll call the senators who are present. The senators who are present to come for this photo with the Right Honorable former Prime Minister. Asante sana, governors. Thank you very much, governors. Senators, a photo with the senators. A photo with the senators. A photo with the senators. We'll also have a photo with deputy governors present and another one with members of the National Assembly who are present. Senators, Senator Mugeni. Thank you. Thank you very much, Senators. Next up, I want to call a photo with the Deputy Governors, led by the Chair of the Deputy Governors Forum. Former Prime Minister Asante Sana, I want to take a photo with the Deputy Governors present. All the Deputy Governors present. Photo with the Deputy Governors present. A quick one, Deputy Governors, tafadhali. We want to have another one with members of the National Assembly who are here. Asante, asante. Asante sana. The Council of Governors has a gift for you, Right Honorable former Prime Minister. The Devolution Conference Steering Committee and the Council of Governors. Tafadhalini, we have a guest. Excuse me. Former Prime Minister, please come to the stage. Please come to the stage. Mwalimu Bage, please help me. Former Prime Minister, please come to the stage. We have a photo and a gift for you. This is a gift from the Devolution Conference Steering Committee. We have a book on devolution. Governor Anno Iguru, the chair of the Council of Governors, flanked by the vice chair, who is also the chair of the Devolution Steering Committee. And that other present as well. Asante sana. Asante sana. Our chief guest, we thank you very much for joining us. We'll be proceeding to lunch to my right. Ladies and gentlemen, our afternoon session begins in an hour's time after lunch. Lunch is served just like yesterday, delegates to the left and guests who have invitation cards to the right. And then we will be convening for our afternoon session, where we have several breakaway sessions. We have several breakaway sessions, 4 breakaway sessions. One breakaway session will be on agriculture, which will be in room number 3. Room number 1 will be hosting empowering youth for inclusive economic growth. Number 2 will be on natural resources. And this main plenary hall will be hosting a breakaway session on health service delivery. Health service delivery will be here. Number 1 will be on youth. Number 2 will be on natural resources. And number 3 will be on agriculture sector. Those are the 3 breakaway sessions. Please go to your session of interest in an hour's time after lunch. Enjoy your lunch, ladies and gentlemen. Huenda kuna room inaitwa control room. Kuna tent inaitwa control room. If you have lost any of your valuables, there's a tent written control room, and we'd like you to go there and look for it. If you have found something and you'd like to hand it over as a lost and found, please take it to the control room as well.